Mogi here. All right. So, as promised, we are going to take some basic routers and switches and virtual PCs from EVNG. So this is my EVNG lab or my EVNG instance. It happens to be the Pro version. So, there's some differences between the free version and the Pro version, which we'll go through that in some other video. It's not really pertinent here. But what I've done here is I've created a pretty basic topology, right? So over here on the left, we've got, in this gray box, we've got a site, a branch location, let's say. I called it Site A. We can kind of practice our subnetting skills, if you will. So it's a fairly small site. It shouldn't be too demanding as far as IP address scheme goes. But what we've carved out here is 10.1.0.0. That's a /22. And with chopping it up into a /22, that gives us the ability to, create some VLANs if we want, subnet up a little further, subnet that up a bit more. So I've just created some random example VLANs here. So we've got VLAN 100, VLAN 200, 3 and 4, and you can see the difference in the scheme there. So it's 10.1 is always the first 2 octets, and then based on the VLAN number, the third octet will change. I've made them /24s, so that's an easy mask. You'll see most people use /24s because it seems to be like the most popular one. It's easy to remember, and generally speaking, it gives you enough IPs to accommodate most needs. So what we're planning on doing today is we'll just kind of focus in on Site A at the moment. We'll slowly build upon this as we go. So I'm going to bring up my secure CRT terminal, and I'll just kind of hide Site B because we're not really worried about it right now. So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and start these nodes up here, and I'll zoom in on each one to kind of give you an idea of what's what. So I didn't label this cloud. This cloud could be, WAN connectivity, it could be internet connectivity. Again, we're not at that point quite yet. I want to start off with, basic connectivity between the PCs, and then we'll kind of dabble in what kind of connectivity we're pretending this may or may not be. But behind the scenes, essentially all this is it's just a router. So it's going to go ahead and boot up. I just started all this stuff. So let's go ahead and connect to switch 1. And we'll connect to PC 1 as well. All right. And we'll connect to this router as well. Why not? All right. Let me blow this up a bit. Hopefully. Hopefully that's a bit more visible. So what you can see here is, the cloud is obviously a default config, nothing's on it, hence the system configuration dialog. The switch was also just freshly rebooted, freshly booted, so it does not have a config on it either. The PC is one of the virtual PCs that EVNG offers out of the box. And you can see router 1 is also a clean slate. So we'll basically just go ahead and get these guys into privileged exec mode, and we'll kind of go from there. All right. So as far as the switch goes, it is Cisco iOS. It's running the L2 image, and you can see it's not the latest greatest version of iOS. It's fairly old, but for all intents and purposes, it gets the job done. Node 11, like I had said, is a router. So similarly, what we'll see here is Cisco iOS. In this instance, it's the layer 3 flavor here. And again, not the greatest, but it should have all the, the bells and whistles we need to build this simple topology. I'm calling them VPCs, but the virtual PCs, if you were to add an object and and you say node, you can see that EVNG offers this virtual PC, which is all these are, and they're pretty slick. So if you go back to the terminal, to the PC, the only thing you're really using these for is like basic ping and traceroute verification commands. So you can look to see how it's configured. So if we type show IP, we can see that right now this PC does not have an IP address. It has no default gateway. There's the MAC address and all that good stuff. If you want to assign this thing an IP, all you do is type IP, and what we'll do is we'll go off of our key here. So, in this case, maybe we want to use VLAN 100 for the connectivity between the router and the switches, so on and so forth. Maybe that's just like our interconnect subnet, if you will, almost like a management network. So maybe we don't want to put the PCs in that same VLAN because we don't want the traffic to kind of bleed together. So let's just say the PC, let's just pretend that this PC is going to be in, let's say, VLAN 200, right? That means this port on the switch is obviously going to have to be VLAN 200. The two are going to have to talk. And, again, maybe in this scenario, maybe this switch 2 is on a different suite or a different floor inside this building, right? Maybe site A has floors 1 and 2, right? And, we can pretend this is fiber or copper. It doesn't really matter, right? Like, we're just trying to simulate a real world, kind of office space or example. So switch 2, maybe that's going to be VLAN 300, right? Let's just say that, this computer or this device has a soft phone on it, and if they call 911, we need to be able to ensure that it provides a different address as, this one here, and we do that through logical segmentation of a VLAN, right? So you can go many different ways, and again, what I'm showing you here is not it's not the way to do things, right? You'll see that as you go through your career, there's probably 6, 7, 8 dozen different ways to do things half the time, and a lot of the design choices you make are going to be revolving around things like cost, functionality, pros and cons, how hard is this solution to manage, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's get back to it. So the PC, we had said the PC can be in VLAN 200. So what we're going to do is we'll say IP 10.1.1, and we'll make the PCs 10. So regardless of what VLAN in, they'll be .10. We'll give that the /24 mask like we had said in our little cheat sheet. And then what we do is we give it the gateway. So 10.1.1. Let's just say the gateways are all going to be .1. That's fine. So we hit enter. You'll see EVNG checks for a duplicate address. It comes back. Obviously, we didn't configure anything yet, so it comes back fine. Now, if we do show IP, what we should see is now we've got the address that we just typed in with the gateway as opposed to the zeros like before. Now, obviously, nothing else in this lab is configured, so if I try to ping my gateway, it's going to fail miserably, as we can see. So not reachable, right? So kind of task 1 here is going to be getting basic connectivity from this PC to its default gateway, which is going to be this switch, which is through VLAN 200, we said. So if we pop over to the switch, so a couple homework items here. So let's just check show IP interface brief. We can see nothing's there. Show interface status. We can see that we've got connections, but there's no VLANs or anything configured. And if we do a show VLAN brief, we can see that it's just all the defaults. VLAN 1, and that's about it. So let's just go ahead and give this thing a host name so we know what we're looking at. So host name is going to be A for site A, and then switch 1 because it's switch 1. Okay, so that'll change our prompt. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to create the VLAN. Really, we've got to create all the VLANs, but in this particular scenario, we're just trying to get connectivity from the PC 1 to the switch. And that we said was VLAN 200. So you can do this a couple different ways. So if you want to create the VLAN first, you would type VLAN 200. That takes you in VLAN configuration mode. You can give it a name. Let's just say name is VLAN 200. You can call it whatever you want. Now, if I do show VLAN brief, we can see that it's not there yet. It will not be there until I type exit or end. So if I now do show VLAN brief, I can see that 200 is there. However, it's not tied to any active ports. It's just been created, okay? So the next step we've got to do is, based on our topology, E00, the interface E00 is the one going to that PC. So we're going to go into interface configuration mode. All right. And let's just give it a description, right? So we're going to say description is link to a PC1. Okay, so now we've got a nice name. The next thing we've got to do is, as you go through your studies, you'll see that, or you'll learn that there's various different port types on Cisco switching. You'll find out that there's access ports or trunk ports. There's port channel interfaces. There's a whole slew. There's no switch ports. There's all kinds of ports that are. There's all types of roles that you can deem a interface, right? In this particular case, we want to make this an access port. So the only thing connected to this individual interface is that a PC1. So to do that, we do switch port mode access. Okay. If we wanted to see what the other modes are, we can use the question mark and we can see that, here's some of the other ones that we were talking about. Trunk, there's private VLAN, this stuff we're not gonna get into that right now. We're just doing a very simple topology. So we've now made it a access port and given it a description. So if I look at that interface, I can see that it's got a simple description and it's mode access. However, it's not in that VLAN yet, which we can still verify by looking here. It's not there. As soon as I do switch port access VLAN 200 and hit enter, now if I look at the VLAN brief, I can see that, okay, now that port or that interface is in VLAN 200. So that's a good sign. So that's about, and there's a spanning tree command you can use. You can do spanning tree port fast, which will essentially make the convergence of that port a bit faster when a device plugs into it. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. So at this point, the VLAN's configured, the interface is configured to be in the VLAN. However, we need to define the default gateway on the switch. So we had said, based on the PC, we had said that the gateway was going to be 10.1.1.1. So if we come back to the switch, what we need to do here is we need to create a VLAN interface that is VLAN 200, because that's the VLAN we're playing with here. So interface VLAN 200. We can give it a description. Again, for the purposes of this, I'll just call it VLAN 200. But this could be sales, accounting, HR. It doesn't really matter. Whatever deems your environment, whatever your environment deems, you make it. You describe it that way. So at this point, I've given it a description. You'll notice that it says state is down, and that is because you have to actually physically enable it. So if I do a show IP interface brief, we can see that VLAN 200 has been created based on this command. However, it's administratively down. So let's go ahead and no shut that. So you'll see as soon as I no shut it, I should get a prompt that says that the interface came up, which it did. Let's give it the IP address of 10.1.1.1 with the /24 mask. Okay. So now if we show run interface VLAN 200, we'll see that we've now got VLAN 200 with the description and an IP address, and it should be up, which it is. So at this point, with any luck, who's to say luck, right? We're confident. We're confident that this is going to work. So if I go ahead and I hit the up arrow one more time and I ping the gateway, we can see now that it is working. So again, based on your studies, you'll find out that the first one is a timeout. That's generally due to address resolution protocol, or ARP. So it's trying to figure out where that gateway is, and it's waiting for a response to that ARP that the PC sent out. But truth be told, if I hit the ping again, I should not see the timeout. It should just work for all 5 pings, which it does. So that is a good thing. So at this point, we've got PC1 with a default gateway to switch 1 over VLAN 200, and that's about it. So in the next video, what we'll do is we'll do the same thing for PC2 and switch 2. However, we'll maybe use VLAN 300 in that particular case. Well, actually, before we do that, we can make PC2 sit on the same VLAN so you guys can see how you can pass a VLAN across a link between 2 switches. So we'll do that next, and then later on maybe we'll change it and have some fun. So tune in for the next one. We'll get the basic VLANs over here, and we'll configure switch-to-switch connectivity.